There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonko table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonko table, the table that will make their dreams come true. Yo, everyone. That is the voice of your Yonko host, DrJaceAttorney, and we are returning to another retrospective of the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. What can we say? We are in Star Wars fever. We covered The Force Awakens not too long ago. By the time you're listening to this, we should have already released Mandalorian Season 3 premiere for Episode 1. And, well, the title of this episode is in itself, The Last Jedi. We are talking about Star Wars Episode 8. Yes, Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Definitely a polarizing film, has its division in the fandom. You have people that love it. You have people that really hate it. Some people are kind of in the middle, but probably one of the more polarizing films out there. But with me, as always, is fellow Yonko Grandmaster Who. Grandmaster, are you going to bring it, Chrome Dome?
Oh, God. I can't believe you quoted that.
It's your background. It's literally your background.
No, you're right. I just forgot it was a quote. Jesus. I'm gonna bring it. Goodness, let me see if I can match that quote. How about I don't need hotshot pilots. I need leaders. I don't know. I got nothing.
Why did you say it like that?
I got nothing. I don't know. I'm gonna bring it as a leader, not a hotshot pilot.
Come and get it. No, but that's Force Awakens.
Correct.
But you heard his voice, folks. We have Nino Desplazado coming in and steering this ship into the sequel trilogy. He assisted us greatly with The Force Awakens as we trudge through the stormy waters of the first introduction to this sequel madness. But now we are tackling what many consider the most important film in any trilogy, the second film. It's the bridge between the introduction and the conclusion. Nino, take it away. Where does our voyage begin with The Last Jedi?
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because looking back on this, it was relatively quiet for a lot of the anticipation of this movie. I think Disney, marketing wise, they were like, you know what's going down. We know you want this. We know you want answers. So we're not gonna push this as hard as the previous movie. Right. So they had a few trailers. They had some really good marketing in terms of the posters were.
I like the posters.
The posters were great, the red and white theming,
very good.
And you had the character posters, which were all the last poster was very messy, very, very messy.
Oh, the white. Oh no, the blue and the red division down the middle. Yeah.
And I feel like this movie's at least the posters and the marketing, it had a theme, and that's what this movie's about, themes. So, people were afraid. People were definitely afraid, I think, at the time, that this was just going to be a retread, that Disney was just going to cash it in. Sure. They were like, oh yeah, The Force Awakens, it was great, but it was just Episode 4. What's to say this one's not Episode 5 again? And I think people were just really excited that Mark Hamill would actually get a speaking role in this movie. Right. He was not on the press tour for the last movie, and I guarantee you Disney did not want him on the press tour for this movie. But in the end, I think there's nothing else to say but just to go in it. We know why we're here. Everyone knows why we're here. Let's go where we left off. So I think the first big major change is like the director, Ryan Johnson. He's big now, but
Really big.
he's had a couple movies at this point under his belt. He had Looper. Any
I
fans
like
of Looper?
Looper.
Yeah.
Looper was
I
good.
really
Yeah,
like Looper.
Yeah,
definitely
Loop-
enjoyed Looper.
So he's always been someone that likes to like write and direct. He likes to be involved in the writing process, and it's important to mention him because we need to like once we everything that was revealed after, like in interviews, I think it's important to mention how his footprint was left on the film for better or for worse. You look at all his movies now and you're wondering why there was such a backlash back then. But, Knives Out, Glass Onion, those are all good movies, good movies that people enjoy now. So,
Right.
but yeah, three storylines in this movie. Three big storylines in this movie. We're just gonna go by the characters that they're attached to. There's Finn's storyline, there's Rey's storyline, and then there's Poe's storyline. What this movie does great in this opening scene was this big action set piece, which was like very reminiscent of another film. It was like definitely like a Japanese, I forget what it was, but like a Japanese World War II film, because of just how it was like structured.
Yeah.
I would say it was very like this whole movie is just very reminiscent of Kurosawa's films. Kurosawa did he did Seven Samurai, I believe. He also did another movie. He very famous Japanese director, very famous.
There is no Star Wars without Kurosawa.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I think this movie tries to like really hone that in, because of something we'll get to later. But so I think this big battle happens, and Poe I think we're just gonna start with Poe's storyline because it's easiest. That's the one we start with in the movie. Poe's like, no, we gotta take out that fighter. We need it because it's like this movie suddenly
It's a
cares.
dreadnought.
Yes, this movie suddenly cares about numbers in Star Wars when it's never like cared about numbers, which is interesting.
Well,
like
I mean,
logistically.
they did this thing in the intro that kind of I remember people talking about it back then, and I still kind of felt the same way going into this movie. They paint a picture that the Resistance is now like on the losing side. And it's such a stark contrast from where we left them off with in Force Awakens. We destroyed their base, Starkiller base. That was huge. That was a huge W. But now they're on the run, and it was always something that bothered me going into Last Jedi. It was just kind of like an eyebrow raise, like, so wait, we're losing now?
It was very well because dare I say, this movie takes place directly after they blew up Star.
It takes place like a couple, if not a couple of days, because like Kylo Ren still has his scar.
Finn's in the back to tank.
Right. And it's weird coming off of that grandiose win and then seeing them. Well, one, it really puts things in perspective. The Resistance is small. They don't have a lot of people.
Yeah, like it was definitely strange. It was strange.
And I don't think anything in The Force Awakens would make you think the Resistance was small. But then obviously it was like, okay, Starkiller base is dead, but the First Order's still kicking. Like it was hardly a loss for them,
But again, a lot of this movie does suffer from, I have to now deal with the consequences of what was set up in the last movie, because there's a big reason why this movie takes place directly after, but we can't get into that because we'll get into that with Rey's storyline. Because the last movie did end on a cliffhanger.
It did.
Why did it end on why did it end on that cliffhanger?
Right.
Literally right next to a cliff. Who knows? Do you know? I don't.
Oh, it was next to a cliff. Oh, that's terrible. Okay.
So Poe is like, we need to take out this dreadnought, and it's very stylistically very interesting. They keep going with the like visually showing like the desperation of war and fighting a war, which they did in the last movie. The first scene in the last movie was very, very impressive, and now this movie does very similar things but just in a different setting. and like different contexts, but they accomplish very similar things. And Poe was just like, yeah, let's take it out, boom, blow it up, the dreadnought, but then a whole bunch of their side gets blown up, and then I think there was like a good scene transition where he like just looks at the camera and then Leia smacks him, and you just hear the smack, and he's like, "You're demoted."
I do remember that. It was
it definitely sets up Poe's arc because they lost, and the scene does it really well. Leia's looking at the monitor, looking at all the bombers that are, not coming back.
Right.
And
it's a good chunk of them.
Yeah, and I think it was a really good the way they shot it, and it sets up Poe's arc. What's it mean to be a leader? What's it mean to be a hotshot pilot? And I think it was a good setup for his arc. R.I.P. to Rose's sister, whose name is unimportant.
Paige.
Paige? Her name's Paige?
I'm pretty sure it's Paige, yeah.
Oh. Terrible Star Wars name.
Well, funny enough,
right up there with Ben.
The only reason why I remember it's Paige is because I was playing Lego Star Wars in tandem with watching The Last Jedi, and I thought Paige was Rose because I forgot her name, and I'm like, oh, that's the love interest for Finn. I don't remember her name being Paige.
Whoa. Nino said, don't jump ahead now.
Don't jump ahead.
We're on Poe's storyline right here.
Right. We're on Poe's.
So he gets demoted by Leia, and Leia is a very central figure of his arc in this movie. I like that. I like that Leia is playing more of a focus. There are a couple of scenes he meets Finn waking up, and he's like, "Oh my God, Finn!" Again, romantic and sexual tension are there.
Okay.
I'm convinced.
I did not see it in this one. I saw it in the last one. I saw it in Force Awakens. I saw that look up and down that Poe gave Finn. He was like, "Hey, it looks the jacket looks good on you, man." And I'm like, "Okay, that's something." But he just got out of the back to tank. He's like, "Oh, great, buddy, you're awake." I don't know. I didn't see it here. I didn't see it here.
That's fair. You'll see it in the next one because they definitely had like a secret agreement. They're like, we're just gonna play this character, these characters like that. And they did fight for it at some point, but Finn does his own thing. We'll get to Finn. we'll get to
right.
But
right.
Poe kind of the ship blows up. There's a scene with Kylo Ren where he's like about to blow up the ship, but he feels his mom is on board, and then someone else blows up the ship after he decides not to, and then everybody memed this, and that year it came out, everybody memed it.
I remember it.
And she's just floating in space, and then she just opens her eyes, reaches out, and floats to the thing. I loved seeing that. I loved seeing Leia use the Force in this movie. I wanted it for a long time. I think they did it well in this movie. She did not. So this is a fun fact, which will be important in the next episode. She did not want to be a Jedi traditionally. She wanted to be like a Force user, like someone who knew about the Force, who could use the Force, but didn't like have a lightsaber, didn't follow Luke's path.
You're saying this is established in the next movie?
Oh no, that's not established. She was saying like between movies, that's how she wanted it.
Carrie Fisher was saying that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
Rian Johnson was like, okay, we'll work it into the script, and he was very like, he and her were very protective of the role, and in the next movie, that kind of goes out the window. But
right.
Yeah. So she uses the Force to pull herself, and now she's in a coma. And then we get introduced to like Poe's antagonist in this film, which is Admiral Holdo, played by Laura Dern.
Yeah,
Ooh,
Admiral Holdo.
Ellie, look, Ellie.
Everyone's favorite Admiral Holdo. I remember Admiral Holdo being like the go-to thumbnail on any YouTube video that was.
And she's like making that face, and she's like, Yeah,
Yeah,
I know exactly which video you're talking about.
it was videos, just
Yeah.
like everyone. I mean, obviously, people had a lot more problems with The Last Jedi, but Admiral Holdo was the focal point. Like, oh man, we really hate Admiral Holdo. Um, I think it was a little bit over exaggerated how much people hated her, but I think there was some merit as to what people disliked about her character, which I imagine we'll get to as her role develops a little bit more. Because she's just introduced right here once Leia's out of commission.
Yeah, and she kind of puts Poe in his place. To be fair, Poe is in the wrong. Poe is like extremely in the wrong. He's like but at the same time, she's not letting him in on the plan. So there's a plan, but we don't know what it is. And we find out in this movie that they can track people through hyperspace. And on the First Order ship, Kylo Ren goes back. They can track people through hyperspace. This is an important plot point that changes the entire dynamic of the movie. Because they can travel through hyperspace, right? They can track people through hyperspace. They have to adjust the plan. Poe's like freaking out. Like, they can track us. Oh my God, we need to figure out a plan. So he goes with Poe, and they get Maz Kanata on like a thing, on a hologram. And she's like, I have your answer. You must find the code breaker. The code breaker in this. And Poe's like, yes, and I'll handle things here and figure it out. But the more lives are lost in Poe's storyline, and I'm just speeding through Poe's storyline because a lot of it is sprinkled out throughout the next two chunkier parts of the movie. So Poe is kind of going back and forth with Holdo until finally he like gets towards a mutiny, right? And he's like, yeah, I need to give Finn more time so that he can get the code breaker and stop ships. It was this whole like very specific plan that could only work if Finn had woken up. So again, very contrived plan, but he stages a mutiny. He tries to figure out some like a different way to give Finn more time and to go against Holdo's plans. But then Holdo regains command of the people who threw up a mutiny. Big explosion happens, very smoky, and who wakes up? It's Leia. Leia wakes up, shoots Poe, knocks him out. That was one of the best scenes in the movie. I honestly
Well, Leia knocking out Poe.
Yeah, she's shooting. She's set it to stun, and he was like, Leia, boom, right in the face. I was like, I laughed. But then Poe gets on this ship with her, and Leia tries to impart this lesson, like, oh, she is going to offer herself up as a distraction with the main ship, and then the smaller ships, which they're not looking for right now, are gonna go safely to another planet where they can't detect us. It's a good plan. And she kind of drives it home. Like, Holdo was caring more about saving everybody and like not risking lives than looking like a hero, which was Poe's
good romance name.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
ship name. Yeah,
look at that.
But this was Poe's arc in this film about being a hotshot, needing to feel like he needed to go out in a blaze of glory. Needing to feel like he needed to fight. He was given the Marty McFly treatment in Back to the Future 2. Who you calling chicken? That it's true.
No, like, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's again, Poe was an actual character in this movie. In the last one, he was just
the ace pilot.
He's a caricature.
Yeah.
He's the ace pilot. Yeah. That's all he was.
Practically it. I say he has a bit of an arc. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, he does. He does.
This one.
Yeah.
He has an arc. Are we cutting it here as far as Finn's arc goes?
No, Finn, you mean Poe?
Gosh, Poe. Wow. Sorry.
Yeah.
Are we cutting it right here?
We definitely are, because then we're gonna get to the climax, and that's when everything kind of meshes together.
Right.
Okay.
Where the writing really shines.
All right. I just want to go back real quick on a couple of points.
Yeah.
I think Poe's arc is actually kind of strong. in this film. I mean, again, like y'all said, it's more arc than he had in the first one. Two, yeah, the Codebreaker plot. I think this is the first time we ever see Star Wars kind of more or less delve into a B story. It definitely sets up, I feel like, a B story with the Codebreaker and everything. Everything that
a C story.
A fun, even worse, a C story.
There's 3 separate plots in this movie. Yeah, there's 3 separate storylines.
And that's I feel that's a lot for Star Wars, and I don't know if it necessarily works. And obviously, when we talk about Finn's story, we'll get into it. I do like the dynamic between Poe and Holdo. However, I don't know how I feel about Laura Dern. I love Laura Dern in Jurassic Park. I love her in Little Big Lies. I don't know if I love her here in Star Wars. It was a little off-putting for me for something. I didn't buy Admiral Holdo. That's Admiral Holdo who saved all the people?
Yeah, didn't they do that? Didn't
they
do
did
that?
do that? They did. They did do that.
Yeah. The Admiral Holdo? I'm like, where's Admiral Akbar?
Akbar died in that first explosion.
He did die in the explosion.
No, he did not. Wasn't he in the next one?
No,
he was on the bridge with Leia, and he died on the bridge when
they made a point to be like, Akbar's gone, Leia's out of commission. I'm like, damn, Akbar.
Not Akbar.
But yeah, to your point too, this plot thread is not necessarily, it's only needed to promote Poe as a character, because withholding the information from Poe, there's no logic in that. There was literally no logic.
I mean, without that segment, you don't even have the other plot thread we haven't gotten into, the Finn plot thread. If you don't have Holdo withholding information, Finn's story, like, there's no arc with or not even arc. There's no second plot with Finn and Rose going off to Kate. Is it Kate? Kate? Whatever. The casino planet.
Banto. Banto.
Yeah.
Canto Bite.
Canto Bite. Right.
But we'll get there. But I wish I would have saw the other video, because there was a video that broke it down perfectly about these 3 plot threads, and it kind of goes like this. They were focused more about these 3 main characters and having 2 characters that kind of advise them to challenge their worldview that they have coming into this movie, and then someone that directly opposes them. So there's like an advisor and then an antagonist, and Leia is kind of the advisor and Holdo is the antagonist. And I feel that Rian Johnson he wanted to put more women in Star Wars. I think that's the main thing. He wanted to put more women in Star Wars. And I'm going to say it. If Admiral Akbar was put in the same position as Holdo, very similar lines, just general, like Admiral Akbar, no one would have a problem. No one would have a problem with. They would be like, oh my God, why can't he just listen to Admiral Akbar?
I
disagree too.
Because the whole point of the Finn storyline of them withholding information is like, there's no purpose in withholding it. Just to get Poe in line, tell him to shut up and be like, listen, this is what I'm doing. This is what the plan is. And then that entire thing with Finn and Rose doesn't even happen. Did we need Admiral Akbar to be what Admiral Holdo's position was? No, but at the same time, it's like, I don't think there's something there where it's like, if Admiral Akbar was doing it, then no one would have a problem. I know I would still have a problem, because the logic is, why are you withholding this information?
I just think that with the amount of hatred this character specifically got for something that is not necessarily unfortunately, this movie came out in the age of post cinema sins, and post cinema sins, that YouTube channel is honestly just like absolutely terrible for any like critiquing anything, because it became such a thing, such a meme to dunk on things that don't make sense in movies, but movies had never fully made sense to begin with. So they just dunked on Admiral Haldo because I think, because not only because it was a glaring issue in the movie, but it was more pronounced because it was like, oh, the purple-haired feminists are taking my Star Wars. That's what it is. Think about it. Think about all the woman characters in Star Wars. Everyone hated Ahsoka when Ahsoka came out.
Ahsoka was annoying.
Season 1, Ahsoka was not that good. She had some strong moments, but she had to grow into it.
And she grew.
True. But at the same time, Ahsoka was a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was acceptable in the sense of she was a child. She's being an annoying child. So
and
yeah.
I'm sure that there is a lot of. I'm sure that if we go back into the prequel trilogy, we'll find a lot more like instances of this. But I generally don't think that Admiral Haldo, if Admiral Haldo was replaced with Akbar, people wouldn't have as big of a problem.
I'm gonna say, listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, that is not true. Akbar is a tertiary character at best. You put him in the forefront. If you put Admiral Akbar in the forefront of any Star Wars plot line in a movie, to where he's the main combatant of Poe's thinking, ain't nobody buying it. Oh, you need to listen to me. I'm Admiral Akbar. I take down the Death Star. There's no way. There's no way. I would not buy that at all. I was like, what makes them think Admiral Akbar is deserving of this plot line? Absolutely not. He is there to be there to
and die on the bridge.
And yet people
it's a trap, bro. Why didn't he do that, man? They wanted to be so funny in this damn movie. That was an easy giveaway line they could have done.
Yeah,
easy.
That's true. They just needed. I think that people were still under the Marvel influence.
This was heavy. This was heavy Marvel influence. The Last Jedi was heavy Marvel influence.
Well, let's not even say Marvel influence. Let's call it what it is. What's that man's name? The balding guy who did Buffy, the ugly guy.
Joss Whedon.
Oh, Joss Whedon. Okay, there we go. So this was an era of post Joss Whedon humor. This was right in the thick of it, honestly, because a lot of this humor doesn't fit. But Star Wars was very funny to begin with. Like, there's a bunch of funny things in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Like Han and Leia going back and forth in Empire. Empire's a very funny movie, but they just try to make it like, Hugs, Admiral Hugs, whatever.
Oh God, that Admiral Hux.
I laughed.
That call in the beginning.
Okay, that was
I laughed.
I was back and forth on that.
I think in a better portrayed war film, they blast Poe out of the sky. Like,
why are you humoring this, man?
Absolutely.
But this movie still is very funny for things that aren't meant to be funny. We'll get to the funniest character in this movie.
Here, let's keep going.
Yeah,
why not?
So
I will come back to that Leia bit that you said. I'll save that for the end. But
yeah,
okay.
So we're gonna go with Finn. Finn starts off this movie. He wakes up
Rey!
in the. He's like, he's looking for Rey because this is generally supposed to be very close to when he got slashed in the back.
Right.
This very traumatic thing that happened. So he's like, "What's going on? I don't understand." And so he wakes up and he finds Poe. Poe's like, "Oh, that's great." And he's in the middle of a battle. He's like, "I kind of don't want to do this." And he kind of gets his stuff and he's kind of trying to, leave the old way out, the escape pods. And he has the tracker to Rey, because Rey's off doing her own things, but he has the only tracker. And he's like, if my friend leaves or wherever she's at and comes back here, she's going to be in the middle of a war that she can't fight.
Right.
He's consistent. He wants to make sure that Rey, his really one of his only friends, is safe. He really loves Rey. That's where he's coming from. And ultimately, he meets Rose. I'm just sighed
Do your
because
best.
no, I like Rose in this film. I really do. I just mentioned that if Rose was a different gender, I guarantee you not as much hate, but or maybe more hate because of what happens at the end. But that's beside the point. He meets Rose, and Rose, they kind of have like a banter. She kind of lost her sister. She's like, oh, my sister, and we know it's her sister because of
Jeez,
the
have some
necklace.
sympathy.
I'm trying to there's a lot to get through with this plot line.
You're good. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm teasing.
And then she has a moment where she's like, yeah, I just stopped someone this morning from trying to leave via the escape pod. And he was like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, they had a bag just like you, and they had this look on their face just like you. And he was like, wait a minute, you're gonna escape. And then she just he's like, no, you don't instantly electrocuted to the neck. That funny scene. But
It got a smile.
You got a chuckle. Yeah.
I like the Rose and Finn bits. I really do. But go ahead, Grandmaster.
Oh, I mean, I don't think I was going to say anything. I think, if anything, that scene is funny, but it's more disappointing because Finn is essentially running away, and that's where we left him in the first film. So it was like, yeah, he took a couple of steps back. He's running away this time with more of a purpose to go help out Rey, but essentially still, he's in this arc of running away.
But did he? Did he take a couple steps back?
The act of running away, whether it's for Rey or any other reason, the First Order is here. They're dealing with it, and he's like, Rey's more important than everybody else here. And
but remember, I think you missed the point of the first movie. The first movie, he was willing to run away from everything and everybody, including Rey. And then the turning point was that he realized that he wants to fight for Rey, for his friend.
Okay, he's not fighting for Rey. He's literally running away for Rey.
Keeping her safe.
Yes.
Keeping her safe from a war she can't fight. However, he's not fighting the war she can't fight. So,
exactly.
He has no choice.
He does have a choice.
Okay. See, the thing with the tracker, because she's coming back to him once she's done with whatever she's doing with Luke. I feel like, and this is just me, I feel like Finn, you remove that tracker from the plot thread, I don't think Finn runs away in this scene.
Probably not.
I don't think he runs away. I think he is just thinking of Rey in this moment. And in a way, you could call it selfish. He is only thinking of Rey and not the bigger picture. But I feel like it's not a couple steps back for his character, because
I'm gonna say
he stays for this fight if you remove that tracker.
If Rey was on the ship with him, he would have stayed.
I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
Where we leave Finn in the first film, the atrocities of the First Order is what drives his motivations in the first film, and yet he's willing to run away from the First Order again, all for the name of this one person that he's known for, I guess, what might be 3 to 4 days.
Come and get.
I'm just saying, I'm throwing that out there.
But
however, I guess that's his arc. That's
his friend.
But yeah, Rian Johnson definitely was trying to make him develop into his arc, like into an arc that he could eventually get to, at the end of this film is very different from when he started this film. And I guess he was playing, again, Rian Johnson was definitely playing the long game with Finn, because he had an arc. I think he was the only character in the first film that had an arc, that had like a real tried and true arc.
Yes, he had a great arc. He had a great arc.
He went from being a coward to like standing up to Kylo Ren at the end because he wanted to save his friend,
right,
and doing all these heroic things. But in the end, he kind of goes into this, what do you call it? Into this mode where he feels like he has to run again because he lost that fight at the end of the first movie. He woke up in a hospital bed. The last thing he remembers was getting slashed on the back and passing out in the snow. You know,
Yep.
he
Right.
lost for his own like psyche. He lost.
He doesn't even know how capable Rey is because he didn't even get to
Exactly.
see her with the lightsaber. So he's
has
like,
no
Rey
idea.
can't handle this.
He doesn't even know
Exactly.
she's a Jedi or Force sensitive. He knows nothing.
No
Yep.
idea.
He kind of just there, and his desire to get back to Rey to make sure that she's okay drives him in this movie. But it also leads him to where he needs to be, which is where at the end of his plotline. I think what they do with Finn here is really interesting. I don't necessarily think it's the best, but basically they get to, Maz Kanata tells them, you need to find a code breaker with the yellow and whatever.
The plume, right?
The yeah, whatever. On a gambling planet called Canto Bight. He goes with Rose, and Rose is kind of like telling him, no, you need to fight. You can't run away from things. And he's just kind of like, I don't know. He goes and he sees Canto Bight. He's like marveled at the beauty. And again, when I first watched this film, the Canto Bight sequence made sense on a thematic standpoint, because I was like, oh, I love thematic storytelling. I love when storylines have a purpose. But looking back on it, it does hinder the plot of a movie. If this was like a book, like if you really think about it, if this was like a novel, this would be awesome if you think about it, because then you'd have like a little mini
Work
story
as a novel, yeah,
in the story. And novels do that all the time, but because it's a movie, because people wanted to have an expected pace, it kind of drags the pace a little bit down, especially when the movie begins and it's like, if you don't do this, we're dead. We're all dead in the sky and no one's going to save the universe. And again, there's another plot line which I'm thinking about, which kind of makes sense in like the grand scheme of things, but they go to Canto Bight. It's basically Las Vegas. Shiny Las Vegas in the 60s, and people are gambling. They get caught. They go to jail. They find this. They find the code breaker, but ultimately they don't engage with them. But also there's like this animal thing that
the greyhounds of the world.
Yeah, of the Star Wars universe. It's a horse. It's like a horse.
No, I mean greyhound races or what, derby races. They're betting on these animals, and yet they're not taking care of them.
Exactly.
Right.
And Rose is kind of like saying these very like metaphorical lines, like very thematic lines, like if I wish I could punch a hole through this entire town. You can tell that Rian Johnson really cares about driving the message home in this film, and this part specifically, because Rose poses the question to Finn, how, if there is literally a fight going on right now, how can these people, these rich people, be completely okay? And then we meet this other guy, played by, what's his name?
Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro. And he's like, I can do things for you, sure, And he's like a drunken mess, and
he's a code breaker though.
He's a code breaker, not the code breaker they were looking for.
Code breaker. Yes. And he kind of plays like the role where he gets them, he helps them escape because they're thrown into jail, and then they help the animals escape. And there's a really cool scene where they're running at night and they're being followed by like a ship. It's a cool scene. And it was a cool scene. And they also see like kids there that are like enslaved. Very reminiscent, very callbacky of episode 1,
Annie.
Racing. Children
this is
enslaved.
Racing.
Exactly.
Grandmaster, how would you have felt if one of the characters like rid on one of those horses, and they're like,
what do you mean they did ride on them?
Right. And then they say this what's the name of the animals? I don't remember the name of the animals.
I don't remember.
No, I don't know that.
The thingies.
They say this is racing. if they said that? How would you have
This
felt?
is pod race.
I wouldn't care. I didn't care for
You're-
this.
You're so uncultured.
This was not good to me. This was not
This horse bit or the whole casino bit? Like what?
a lot of the casino bit, because from a thematic point to what Nino's saying, yes, I feel the themes of, here they are acting like there's no war going on, and then a lot of them are war profiteering, which there was a commentary on that as well.
Right.
He was mentioning how a lot of them are selling to both sides, or they get a pass by the First Order because they supply them and whatnot. So there's that commentary, which I think is good. I just think, again, a lot of what I find this movie's at fault of is just execution. I think those themes work perfectly. I don't think we need an elongated escape sequence on these things in this like liberating moment just for this code breaker to come rescue them at the end. Like I don't need that. I don't need that. And I don't necessarily like to compare it to the other Star Wars entries, but it's like in those other films they would have tackled these themes right then and there just through conversation and dialogue, which is good, but there is no elongated sequences to try to make this placement in the story worthwhile. I think you were supposed to look at that escape sequence and be like, yeah, I love the fact that we came to Canto Bight. That really sold it. As if the dialogue and the conversation wasn't enough. It was enough. I didn't need that. And same thing too with the kids. I like the kids. If you were trying to play homage to Phantom Menace with the enslaved people, that works for me. And it definitely works for what's about to come at the end of the film. But then I think you just take away. Well, one, you take away from, because there's a code breaker. He's not the code breaker, but he's a code breaker.
What are
How
the
convenient. But the escape sequence I think takes away from all of that. Like I forget there was commentary because now I'm left with this.
So I think looking at the work that Rian Johnson has done after, I'm looking at the TV show that he's currently doing. I'm looking at
listen, Rian Johnson,
Glass Onion. Wait. What's that other one? Knives Out.
Knives Out. But I forgot this. He's directed some of the greatest episodes of Breaking Bad.
True.
Oh, he has?
Yes. But
Oh.
you're not there yet. Season 5.
I'm not. Okay, so I haven't seen any that he's directed. Okay.
I know he's did Ozymandias, which is considered probably the greatest Breaking Bad episode. Some
Okay.
would say, and he's got like one more under his belt.
He's done a lot of good stuff, but
I think he had a lot of good ideas with The Last Jedi. I think it's just transitioning into those good ideas is where I personally have problems with how he's telling. So like I have a feeling like he had all these great ideas where he's like, okay, I want to have a casino scene. I want to have something there where we're going to talk about how like there's war profiteering and how these animals are enslaved. But he forgot the transition part where I'm supposed to care about this scene, because I do like the way this casino looks. I like because it kind of gives off like Ocean's 11, Fifth Element type of vibes, and it's something that I'm not used to with the Star Wars film. I don't think we've ever seen really a casino in any Star Wars medium, so I like it. But I'm kind of with Grandmaster on this one where I had to pause this segment a lot rewatching this film, because the last time I watched this movie from beginning to end was in theaters, and I saw it once. And so rewatching it now on Disney Plus, like once we get to this bit, I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to like get engaged, but I'm just not with the casino thing. And I feel like I should be, because it does have a good message. It does have something that I feel like is worthwhile that Rian Johnson's trying to say, but
I just feel like, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah,
Jace,
that was basically it.
But I was trying to say that looking at his films after and like his work after, he definitely cares about class stories, like stories which comment about class and how it invades every part of our being. And this is what he was trying to do in this movie. I think he could have gone about it better, but I think he bit off more than what he could chew, because he was trying to say something about how the rich um, basically do war profiteering and fund both sides, and not taking a stand against it is just taking a stand for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was trying to say that, but it got very muddled because how they got there was very, I think there could have been a tighter script in this section, with Finn and Rose, and still have all these like things where, and I think you could even have like a thing where Finn is like kind of like amazed at seeing all this, but Rose is also just very like, we just have to come here for what we came for. They get jailed, they get breaking out, and then they take off. That could have still been a thing that happened, and they could have just been running off, and like I think dare I say, for the message that this movie is trying to get to, I think they have to fail or have to make a choice in leaving those people there in order to get to the real fight. You know what I mean? Instead of like having this big sequence where they free people. And yes, it's very Star Wars, but it's also detracts some of the narrative messaging in the film, because then it kind of, you get this like win in the middle of the movie when the rest of the movie is saying everything's really bad right now. We need to like, figure it out. It just could have been cleaned up, I think. He was biting off. He instead of people walked away from this movie not understanding that what he was trying to say was rich people bad, and instead they went with like, this movie's about animal rights. Who cares about animal rights in Star Wars? Many people said that. Too many people said that. All these YouTubers that had complaints said that. But again, bit off more than he could chew. He finds the code breaker, or whatever, this code breaker that saves them, and he brings up a good point to Finn. He was like, who do you think like supplies the Empire? And he's like, yeah, but they're bad. Like these rich people are bad. They're bad. Bad. And he was like, yeah, but who do you think supplies the Resistance? These same people. They make things for the same people. And Finn is kind of like, what side do I take at this point? Because they're enjoying life, but they're funding our own fight and their fight. He's in a point of conflict. So he took a few steps forward and then a few steps back because of the interactions in this movie. And then they get headed to the, what do you call it? They have a plan to infiltrate and get headed to
the lead Star Destroyer.
Yes. They're all in disguise, and they let them through, and then they like get to the point where they're like putting in the code and trying to stop it from from chasing the ship so that they can get away, but then they get caught, and Phasma comes out, and Phasma's like, yeah, Phasma's like, traitor. She gets the moment that she finally deserves, and from the last movie, in this movie, he's like, oh, Finn 2187, I hate you, I'm gonna execute all of you. And that's where we're gonna stop there, because there's a lot of back and forth with Rose. Rose is really good in these sequences. There's even a plot point surrounding the necklace that she had, because it was made from like a special metal, and he needed it to to open something.
Right. Yeah.
Fine. And it showed that Rose was willing to give up everything to fight for the cause her sister died for.
Okay, let me say this real quick. Rose as a character is actually a really good character. I will give her that. I do not think every scene works simply because the writing is somewhat all over the place, or the multiple plot lines are all over the place. But Rose as a character works for me. I think she does a really good job at progressing Finn forward. As you said, each character kind of has like a mentor figure and an antagonist to their journey in this film. Rose definitely serves as the mentor to Finn, and I think she does a good job at that. But yeah, still problematics here and there, but Well, let's continue. That's my 2 cents real quick on Rose.
Is that Finn's story, or are we?
I think
jumping
that's a good
into...
That is
stopping
Finn's
point
story.
for Finn's, right?
Because now we're all kind of
we're kind of reaching that meetup point.
So Poe and Leia and everybody, they on the escape ships. Holdo's on the main ship alone. Finn, BB-8, and Rose are on the lead Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
There
and I forget that the Codebreaker sells them out.
He sells them out because he
right.
said, he's like, you sell to both sides. I literally told you this.
He's like, the good guys are this person today and they're you tomorrow. And he was like, I'm just trying to save my own skin, which was essentially what Finn was trying to do at the beginning of this film and the last film. It's almost like the Codebreaker is a reflection of Finn. It's good writing. It's good writing.
I think you're giving a lot of credit, but I'm gonna let you continue.
No, it's true. And no, I'm being totally serious. This was purposeful. Like, the reason this Codebreaker was like, look, I'm just doing what I need to do to save my own skin because no one's gonna take care of me but me.
It can be purposeful, but execution maybe not all be there. So
all right, well, let's get to the meat and potatoes of The Last Jedi.
Which is crazy that you call it meat and potatoes, because part of me feels it's not even that good as meat and potatoes.
It's not. It's not.
The best parts of the movie come from this plot line that we're
I don't think these are the best parts.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
So here is the unfortunate effect of ending on a very scene-specific cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start the movie with the very scene-specific cliffhanger. Unfortunately, that's just how it happened. Now, Rey gives the lightsaber to Luke, after she stood there for, 2 weeks and was like just staring at him. And he kind of looked at it, and tossed it over his shoulder. Now,
whoa, my expectations have been subverted.
A lot of people wanted Luke to do something else, and they said it wasn't in character for him. Once they saw this film,
they wanted Luke to do something else with the lightsaber.
They were like, if he was gonna reject it, he could have at least let it just fall from his hands.
Oh, but then that's not MCU humor. You gotta
exactly.
do the extra bit. Oh, he's tossing it aside. It's trash.
I think it's subversions of expectations.
Well, did you just say subversions of expectations, Grandmaster Hoop?
Yes, I
Too
did.
much.
Whoa.
Which
you saying that subverted my expectations of what you were going to say.
I'm now over here like, what's going on? He just tossed it like it was nothing.
I meant there was a gasp in the theater.
There was a gasp in the theater, yeah.
When we went to see that and that scene happened, we're like, whoa, he tossed it. I mean, there was a bit of laughter because it was like...
yeah.
He threw it, but then it's like, whoa, why'd he do that though? What's the deal?
Yeah. Huh? So then Rey begs Luke to first of all, I think before we continue, Mark Hamill in this movie, this is the best acting he's ever done. Period.
Oh God, you are giving this movie a lot of praise.
You don't agree
No,
with
I disagree.
Me?
This is not Mark Hamill's best acting.
What do you think his best? Wait,
yeah.
Does this include like a VA work?
Yes, I'm including VA.
I'm including VA work. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
what? No way. We're including VA work.
Okay, I'm talking about from one thing. One thing as in what? Like one project, one performance.
Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. There you go.
All right,
Return of the Joker. Oh.
If you're gonna make me choose one Mark Hamill Joker voiceover, I'm gonna choose that.
Okay. All right.
That says more about you than it does about me. But I think that
you think more people are on this hill with you. I don't think they are.
This is to me, this is his best. Like,
his
he really
best. Wow.
This is his best like acting performance. Period. Because there's so many scenes. Like when we go, like let's go through it. Like
Keep going.
he's being like grumpy old man. Go away. Chewie
Right.
punches
Leave
the
me
door
alone.
down. Punches the door down. And he was like, Chewie, R2, and then the realization hits him, and you can feel it. He's like, all he has to say is, "Where's Han?" That's great acting right there.
I'm not saying
Great
it's
acting.
not great acting. I don't think it's his best acting.
To me, it's his best acting role.
Sure.
But he goes back and forth with Rey, and he starts, training her, and then there's this scene where he's like, "Oh, you have to reach out," and then Rey reaches out.
Okay, I'm sorry. We have to dial back a little.
Dial back. Go
Just
ahead.
because you need to set up that it does not want to train Rey at first. Like very much, he is stuck in his milk suckling ways from this creature.
Oh, God.
Was this needed?
No, but it was. But you see, this is the
a
funniest
riot.
part.
He subverted my expectations.
This is the funniest part of this movie, or one of the funniest parts. This whole storyline is where all the humor is. He just takes a glug and he goes,
and stares
was
Rey
fucking
dead in the
weird.
eye as he.
That was weird. That was so weird. But you got to mention how he says the quote about it's time for the Jedi to die. That's where
that was in the trailers. That
was in the trailers, yeah.
Well, I know. I think you need to mention it before
But
you
we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah, he says it before he trains her.
No, he says it. No, he says it in the middle.
I think
I'm
he
pretty
said it in the
sure.
middle. I don't remember
Because
he said that
I
in the
think he
beginning.
starts training her, and but first there was this scene that he goes into like the Falcon, and he's like reliving some of his memory, and R2D2.
Yes, and R2 plays the infamous clip.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes,
correct.
And it was that was well done. That showed me.
I like that. I like that.
That showed
That
me
was
that
good.
Ryan Johnson
That was good.
cares about Star Wars.
He knows
he
where to
does.
hit nostalgia buttons. That was a great nostalgia button.
And it was also good for Luke's character. So he's just like, oh, I gotta do it. But he goes and trains Rey. There's some cringe humor, and then there's hints that, hey, something's happening. Something's happening on two fronts. There's a connection with her and Kylo Ren, Rey and Kylo Ren. Like they keep seeing each other, when they're not there, and Rey keeps trying to attack him, and then he shoots him at some point, and then he's like in his chair.
Can you see me?
Yes.
I see you.
And then Luke is trying to teach, like he's calling out the Jedi. At the height of their power, they let the most powerful and insidious, get it, insidious,
Yes.
Sith Lord to take power and create Darth Vader.
He's right. I'm glad he called him out.
I just like to point out, I was correct. He said it's time for the Jedi to end in the beginning. Like literally, it's Mark 25 minutes into the film. That's when he says that.
All right. Well, congratulations.
That's important.
So
I said,
yes, but we don't understand why he's like this. Because there's a secret. Like there's a secret that he's keeping from Rey.
yes, but it's good to know that he said that in the beginning. Because that secret.
It doesn't
drives.
matter.
Yes, it does, because that secret drives. It's like, okay, so he is going to teach her 3 lessons.
Yes.
3. He only says 3.
Yes.
And then, as you said, the reaching out moment, he gets scared again. And he's like, maybe this is a bad idea.
Because he's saying, oh, like Rey's like, there's a hole and there's a cave, and he's like, to fight it, and she's like, I'm going in, and he kind of has to like wake her up from it. And he's like, you just went right to it. Like, how am I supposed to teach you about the Force if you just went to one of the worst place for the dark side to be?
What the hell is this hole, man? This hole on this island.
The hole is like the cave. It's like the cave in
Dagobah.
Yes.
From Dagobah.
Yeah.
And again, Yoda did the same thing where he hid where there was a lot of there was a lot of Force. Like there's a lot of light side and dark side on the planet, to hide his presence. Luke did the same thing, except he was completely cut off. Like that's something that we find out, that he's completely cut off from the Force. Right. And Rey's kind of shocked that he would even do that. Like, this is one of her heroes, and she's just kind of like, I don't even know who you are. You're not living to like the standards that I, that I'm trying to live my life by, even though I've
Oh,
idolized
it's
you.
kind of like the audience experience.
Yes. Wow. It's almost like Rey was supposed to be the audience character in this movie, which she was. But then there's like this connection between Kylo Ren, and they keep connecting. There's a lot of back and forth. Luke finally reaches out in the Force, but first, Rey goes into the cave, right? And this is one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars. I truly think so.
You're
I
overselling
truly
this,
think
man.
No, I'm not. When Rey goes down there and then has this whole experience with the Force, it made me question what the Force, like, and this is someone who's grown up with Star Wars, it made me question, like, what else can the Force do? And this is not the first time this is not the last time the movie does that. So it made me question, what else can the Force do? And I think that is important, because I think a lot, at least with me growing up, the Force was very simple. Go onto CartoonNetwork.com, play the Clone Wars fighting game, and there was Force Lightning and Force Push. That's the limit of the Force. That's it. Force Push, Force Grab, and Force Lightning. But this made me like, it opened my mind, into what the Force could be.
Okay, tell me, what can the Force do? What did they show you that the Force can do?
In this thing, it showed kind of that. To me, it showed that Rey finally starts understanding that the universe is bigger than herself, but the universe is herself.
What can the Force do?
The Force is showing her this.
Isn't that the same thing as Search Your Feelings? The Force been doing this.
We saw this on Dagobah too, with Luke
but it's
in the
showing. Oh, so a man coming out in Darth Vader's thing, and then he cuts off his head, and then it blows up, and it's Luke's
That doesn't
face.
show you what the Force can
That's
do.
Search Your Feelings.
Oh my! But this is showing us rather than saying search your feelings. Imagine if you went to a friend with a problem and they show you something that can change your life. Instead, they go search your feelings, and
it's
then
a
just
visual representation of searching of your feelings.
Good. I want visual representation.
But Dr. Jace just said we got the same thing on Dagobah.
We didn't get the same thing on Dagobah.
Yes,
You're right. Rey
Luke did not
snapped her fingers, and multiple shadow clones did it. It's different. It's different.
I enjoyed it. It was very welcome to see this kind of experiment be in a Star Wars film. I enjoyed it. And it did make me question, the rules of the Force, which I'm always welcome to. I always love
what rules. That's what I don't understand.
Know how to. Okay, the rules of the Force when we were watching Clone Wars and the
don't
prequels,
do like lightning and Force push.
It's true.
We've seen it. So Yoda's not using the Force when he does his backflips and twirls in the air.
Oh, I forgot. Physical, yeah. Force punch, force jump. Oh,
I mean,
no.
it's just visually different, but it's essentially
that's but the visual aspect is important. Instead of me just closing my eyes and be like, ooh, I feel the Force. Ooh, like the thing. Again, it's literally. I'm gonna reference the scene now. It's Rey holding out her hand and like, oh my god, I feel it, and it's Luke tickling her with a stick. No, this is showing us what the Force can be.
Okay,
I like it.
You can like it. I just don't agree with you saying it's something new and profound. Okay. I think the most new and profound thing that this movie does is the connection between Kylo Ren and Rey.
That's another, yeah.
Okay,
that
one. That was pretty good.
Especially the moment where I think rain falls on her.
And it gets transferred over.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting as well. Yes.
Did you like his getup without the shirt?
Yeah. Yeah.
We got
funniest parts of the movie. Put something on. And he's just
he doesn't say anything. He just stands there menacingly.
It's good. I think, like I said, that these elements of the Force throughout this storyline, throughout this movie, it hasn't been done since. Like everything else that has come after before has kind of just been like either a retread of somebody else's work or something we've already seen in Star Wars. This was like it pushing the Force visually, conceptually. This was the movie to push the Force, and I enjoyed it. But yeah, they had that scene where she's like, I saw nothing, I only saw myself. And that was a very big character moment. And she kind of reaches out to Kylo Ren. She's finally understanding him. And Kylo Ren kind of reveals to her like the backstory at this point, right? Um, of what was going to like what happened.
What happened with him and Luke? Yeah.
Yeah, Luke at the beginning of this plot thread was like, "Oh, I sensed the evil inside him," and then we had a fight, and what do you call it? Right when I was over him, he ignited his lightsaber, and I ignited mine, and then we fought, and by the time I woke up, everything was gone. But then, actually, no, that's not what happened. I'm mistaken, aren't I? It's Kylo Ren who tells her like, "Oh, he was looking at me like he was about to kill me," and then I was acting in self-defense at that point. And Rey kind of questions him, once they like have that touch feeling, and Luke's like, "Stop!" And then they have a big fight
Right.
in the rain, which was good. It's a good lightsaber fight with only one lightsaber. Luke was old and hadn't used the Force and was still giving her lessons on how to fight. That was fun. I found it fun. But then he told her the real reason of what happened. He was going to go there and kill. Like he had a moment where he's like, I can't let my father happen again. I can't let this happen. And he ignites the lightsaber, but then he instantly regrets it. But it's by that point it was already too late. What was y'all opinions on that?
I didn't like it at all. I didn't
don't-
like it because
I don't-
this is coming from a character that the Luke that was from the original, from somehow, and I get it, it's a new Luke, and we've seen interviews where even Mark Hamill's like, this is not the Luke that I remember, but it's a Luke for a new generation, so let's just go with that. But this guy somehow saw the good in one of the most despicable evil entities in the galaxy that committed war crimes against billions of people, yet he still somehow found the good in this person. Obviously Darth Vader, his dad, but his own nephew, who hasn't done anything, who is still a clay that is to be molded into something, he gets one shred of doubt and he has a moment of weakness and tries to kill him. I mean, well, obviously he regrets it in that moment, but it was too late already. I don't buy that from Luke.
I like this part of the film. I'm just
like
a fan of this film.
But my thing is like, I'm not against the idea of Luke somehow becoming this like pissy old man that's like, he regrets what he did. He's afraid of like this next dark user, this next dark force wielder becoming the next Darth Vader. I like that idea, but just from where we left him off from Return of the Jedi until now, which is The Last Jedi, I just don't see that transition where, okay, you look for the good in your father, but somehow you're not looking for the good in your nephew. And
and here's to this point. I was gonna save this part for the end, but Rian Johnson was like stated that he not only wanted to subvert people's expectations, but he also had to write with the story that he was given. He didn't have any writing control of episode 7. So J.J. Abrams purposefully left out Luke in that movie, right? He purposefully left out Luke in that movie. And Rian Johnson had to go and answer the question, why would Luke, of all people, like strand himself on a planet with no one to find him, right? With like a scattered map, and telling nobody, why would he be on there? Why try and hide the map to begin with?
Why do you even make a map for people to find him if he went there to die, though? Isn't that counterintuitive?
I don't think he made the map. I think they said that.
No, that he made the map because the second half of it was an R2D2. Because he was the only one that knows.
Like the map came from old Jedi text, is what he was saying. Like he went there to go.
Yeah, it was not like a map that said, "Oh, I am Luke Skywalker, and I have charted my course for you to find." But that's what everyone was expecting. Everyone was expecting, like, "Oh, Luke was being mysterious and gathering his forces at the light side, so that someone who was truly worthy could." It sounds very cliche fantasy novel.
I'm gonna say this, and I think this is a big problem of the sequel trilogy. Is that, I mean, they wanted to bring back the old cast. I get it. But by doing so, there's like, I don't know, 30, 40 years worth of story that is not told or shown. So when they show this flashback and, you know, what's driving Luke is like, he's like, Snoke already had a grip on Ben well before, you know, I came in there. And it's just like, it keeps adding on to the layer of things we don't know anything about. Who the heck is Snoke? How did he get his grip on Ben? So much to the point to like what Dr. Jace is saying. Ben hasn't done a single thing ever, you know.
He just wakes up and sees his uncle about to stab him.
Right. And it's like, and I feel there's a better story that is out there if you actually show kind of Ben's fall and, you know, Luke's fall versus here's Luke 30, 40 years, you know, whatever. But I mean, that's the battle they choose to fight when they set it in the timeline where it's set. So I'm just not big on it just because there's so much loose ends in it that is not shown and it's just told to us. That's why I don't buy it.
Unfortunately, they just, I think they waited a long time to make these movies, and also George Lucas originally just wanted to end it on episode 6,
right?
But there was also canon out there, and Disney kind of wiped that away, and the cast was older, like the original cast was older, but also, there is, I think this suffers from the Final Fantasy 15 effect, where they wanted so many tie-in materials to this property. Like it wasn't, you couldn't just read the movie, you had to get the expansion book that talks about who the Knights of Ren are for the last movie. You had to go and buy the comic series to go and figure out why Kylo Ren, like how he fell, and how Luke started like mistrusting his, you know, his wisdom. Again, they wanted you to be super invested in it and have different ways of telling the story, but also ultimately Rian Johnson wanted to tell this story because I have a feeling that he just wanted to go in this direction, and he felt like this was the best way that he could do it given the circumstances of where the last movie left off. Like he was answering like, where do we go from here? Like, and that's not cliche. He did not want this to be a cliche movie, you know. And I think the most cliche thing that he could have done was be like, Luke, the very first scene of, in an alternate universe, the very first scene of this movie is, I've been waiting for you, Rey. I have left all these clues for you. I used the Force to magically give Maz Kanata the lightsaber so you would find in that very moment. And now I will train you to defeat Snoke, which is just Palpatine 2.0. Anything ringing a bell? Anything ringing a bell for the next movie? I'm moving on. Anyway, so then this moment happens where Rey's like, I can change Kylo Ren. I can change my toxic boyfriend. But
Daddy, I can fix him.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
I can save you. I can save you.
God. But she basically pulls a Luke from Empire Strikes Back. And Luke is just like, don't do it, don't do it. And then
This
he's
will
like,
not go the way you think.
exactly. And she leaves thinking that Kylo Ren will join her.
You will
and-
turn. You will be the one to turn. No, I won't. I know
But
the
that-
future.
that's-
You will turn.
That's how far Luke has fallen. Like, he can't even trust someone else to make the same decisions that he'd made.
I mean,
You
he
know?
just met her.
He did, truthfully. And when he was training with her, she immediately went into the dark side cave in her mind.
You didn't even resist it.
So and at this point, Luke is just like, that's it, I'm done. I'm done. Like, he's been very adamant saying like the Jedi were arrogant in their way they approach the Force. They were the ones that the protectors of everything. It shouldn't have been like that. So he's like, I'm just gonna go burn the sacred text. So let's go burn the sacred text. And then what do you call it? Yoda comes up out of nowhere and tries to stop him.
Puppet
And-
Yoda.
Yes, Puppet Yoda. One of the greatest things this movie ever did was actually they actually got the original puppet and restored it.
Oh
Because
wow, I didn't know.
a lot of puppets from like back then are in decay now. Like when they were doing like this is a tangent, but when they were doing the Last Crystal or the Lost Crystal for Netflix, that TV show,
Okay.
it was the Dark Crystal. The Dark Crystal
Dark
series.
Crystal, yeah.
Yeah. The puppets, they had to remake some of the puppets, and they got the original puppet makers and their children to come in and kind of figure out how they did it, because a lot of the skills, they were like, we don't remember how we created these puppets.
Wow, that's actually kind of cool.
So I think for Rian Johnson to make it a point to bring back Puppet Yoda, not CGI Yoda, and kind of put the restoration process on it was a very big thing for Star Wars. I think it was. This scene's beautiful. Yoda's just like, oh, you're gonna burn the thing. You've read them. He's a Force ghost using Force lightning on the tree. Love that. I love
that. Was
that.
kind of funny.
Yeah.
He just did it for him, and then Luke immediately regrets it. No, the sacred text.
And then they have this moment where Luke is he's completely defeated at this point. He's like, what can I do? You know, like, and Yoda comforts him and is like, your students, the people that come after you, we are what they grow beyond. That's a very,
I like that line.
That's a very good line, and I think that's where the
line.
movie was going. This was like a very big point of the movie. Rian Johnson was trying to escape the trappings of Star Wars because people were expecting the cyclical nature of Star Wars to continue, and he was trying to make a point and being like, no, we need to find something new. So now let's get into the first climax of the film. Rey and Kylo Rey gets there. Kylo takes her to Snoke. We see Snoke in this film.
Yay.
Yay. And he's Andy Serkis. I can't even do his voice, but whatever. He's Snoke. He's Andy Serkis hamming it up. And he's just like, Force lightning, like making threats. And there's this moment where he's like takes the lightsaber and he's like just playing around with her. He's like this very powerful Force user.
That's insane.
And this is a retread of the moment, like of Empire Strikes Back, where they have to have a battle in the thing. But in the end, then he's like, I see him turning his lightsaber and igniting it, and he's so full of himself that he fails to see that Kylo has a different plan, and then he just goes and cuts him out. That's a big thing. That's a big thing in this movie. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying it's a big moment.
It was a shock. I will say that it was definitely. I remember the theater was aghast at what happened. Like, Nani? What?
I think this scene was better than a lot of the scenes that you were describing earlier as the best scenes. I think this throne room sequence was really well.
Thanks. Well, the storm room, it is good because there's a confrontation. Then they have the fight scene. I don't care how many nitpickers are in the, what do you call it? in the world like saying, "Oh, the choreography, they was not perfect. It was not perfect." I enjoyed this choreography. I enjoyed this fight scene.
I mean, I wasn't expecting perfection. Ray again is not trained, and
Ray's not trained, and she's holding her own against what are they called? Centurion Knights?
I don't even know what they're called.
I think they're like Centaurian or Centurion Knights. But they train their whole lives for this style of combat. And Ray
Are they?
But yes, they are.
But here's the question: everybody knows that if you're a Force user and you have any grappling on the Force, you're just gonna be like, unless you're a Mandalorian, you're just gonna be you're just gonna get beat by a Force user.
They could have won.
They could have.
I don't know. Well, wait, who could have won?
The red people.
Oh, the red. Yeah.
I mean, hey, Kylo Ren. To be honest, well, again, I started noticing this more in these last two films. He very much fights like a broadsword, like a medieval knight.
Yeah.
It's not a broadsword. It's more like a longsword. It's
what?
Look, listen.
He fights like Ned Stark. He fights like Ned Stark. He holds it like Ned Stark.
You know what he fights like? The seventh form in the upcoming Star Wars Jedi Survivor video game.
Ooh.
I don't know if
actually,
that's true or not.
He does have
that's what I'm saying.
He does have that.
Yes, there's a new fighting form where it's like slower, but it does more damage. Yes.
Nice.
We love it. We love that for us. Anyway.
This should have been the Knights of Ren, but go on.
So then this could have been the Knights of Ren.
This should have been.
I think Rian Johnson did not like the Knights of Ren because they were.
Well, I don't like Rian Johnson.
Dude.
Damn him and his. I know what's better for this movie. I do.
All directors are like that. All directors.
That's understandable.
Or there are some things that need not be a mystery. Do the Knights of Ren have to be a mystery?
And who's to fault for that?
JJ.
Thank you.
Yeah.
JJ Abrams is the problem with this whole trilogy. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So then this whole thing happens. Let's go back into the other plot lines. Poe's like, "Oh no, they caught on to our thing." And he's watching, and Laura Dern's character is watching all the other ships get blasted. And she's like, "I'm gonna make she doesn't say anything, but she's like turns the ship around. Finn's about to get executed by Captain Phasma, and then one of the coolest shots in movie history happens. That's everybody in the movie theater when they saw that, they were like, they were really
how quiet it was. The silence,
and it just right through the destroyer. It was good. It was good. It was
good.
Visually tantalizing.
Makes me wonder why they don't do that more often when they're pushed against the wall.
They'll, you know what?
Why don't they do this more often? That was so powerful.
It was a desperate maneuver. It was a desperate maneuver.
Yes.
Oh, and it worked as a Deus Ex Machina for some. Finn should have died.
You're right. And then Finn has this whole fight scene with Rose, and BB-8's like commanding like an AT-AT.
Bring it, Clone Dome!
They fight each other, and he's like, and this is Finn owning up to who he is now. He's like, "Oh, like you're scum." After he beats Phasma, and he's like, "Yeah, rebel scum."
Oh.
You could have had a really nice arc for Phasma and Finn had they not squandered. Yes, throughout all three. Had they not squandered it in the first one.
So that first fight that he has with Traitor, that should have been Phasma.
Yeah.
Should have been Phasma. Phasma whoops his ass, like just utterly destroys him. You have this second movie where they have the rematch, and you don't kill Phasma. I don't know why they killed her in this movie. Jesus, you don't want to sell toys for the finale? You don't want to sell more toys, Disney? Fine, kill her off in this movie. But in a perfect world, you have this rematch with Phasma and Finn is putting up a much better fight than he did in Force Awakens. And Phasma's starting to realize, ooh, wait a minute, he's actually holding his own. I'm not sure how, because I beat his ass like not too long ago, but he's holding his own, whatever. And then you save this finale, this final confrontation in the final movie. But Ryan wanted to do it his own way. He's like, I want to kill Phasma in this movie. And
he was very dedicated to subverting expectations.
To a fault. To a fault
in this
I mean,
movie.
I don't even think it.
He subverted
Phasma
only
only shows up at the end of this movie.
That's true.
Yes, and she says traitor as well.
And everybody calls Finn a traitor. Everybody. But here's my issue with this movie. I don't think Kylo Ren should have been as involved. I think, first of all, some easy fixes. You could have definitely put this movie maybe 6 months after the last movie, right?
I think that resolves a lot.
Yeah, it gives some time. But then same situation. Rey finally connects with her beeper, right? You can even say time moves differently on that planet, whatever, right? So, then Finn has time to practice, and oh man,
yeah, because he got really good at that thing real quick.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, he's really good with that that stun, whatever that is, that tonfa.
And also, I think Kylo Ren does not need to be anywhere near, you know what I mean? I think he can be doing his own thing in this movie. You know what I mean? Besides being on the battleship with Snoke, I think he should be on a first order planet connecting with Rey, rather than being shooting in the action of things with his mom and stuff.
Right.
I mean, I'm fine with him here.
I'm not, because
he took a back seat the whole movie.
Yeah, but honestly, I think that any movie, any part of the movie where he's in a fighter jet could have been Hux. It could have been Hux.
Well, yeah, you could have given Hux more to do. You sure could have, but Kylo Ren's pissed. He's a pissy boy. That's his character.
Either way, because it would just make for a better movie, because then it would be the timing wouldn't be hey, aren't you in a battle right now? And then it wouldn't be this contrived oh, the shots are just barely missing their sheet. You wouldn't have that whole scenario. So that's just some of my things, but again, people did other things. Either way, this is a big climax of the movie. They all go into the salt planet nearby, and they're ready for a barricade. Kylo Ren is kind of you know what? That throne looks pretty good. Hey, Rey, why don't you and me get on that throne and rule the galaxy? I have brought peace, stability to my empire. Your new empire. But it's giving off those vibes, and he's very much oh, Rey, your parents are nobody. I wish he didn't say. I wish he was telling the truth. I wish he didn't say any of these things. He would have been I wish he would have just said, who your parents are don't matter. They don't matter in the grand scheme of things.
I actually would have liked more vagueness, more ambiguity, because then it's you could either interpret it as he was being literal, as in what does it matter who your parents are? They could have just been nobody. And maybe that could have been the hint. At the same time, maybe they are someone important. We don't know, but he's basically trying to teach her the lesson. Why are you so obsessed with them? Who cares? Who cares?
Join me and let's do this. Let's do, And she's like, no. And then they have this force clash, and then a good part of the movie comes. This is the second climax of the film. The battle on the salt planet that is very reminiscent of Hoth.
I think it's important to note, because I'm going to come back to this with this climax on the salt planet. They get into a scuffle over Luke's lightsaber. They're pulling the lightsaber, and it gets destroyed.
Yeah,
that's where it gets destroyed. I just want to mention that, and I'll come back to it when the time's right.
Yeah,
yes,
it
we're on the
does get
salt planet.
destroyed. And for anyone who was paying attention in the movie, yes, it gets
Yes.
destroyed.
No,
So-
don't worry. I'll come back. I'll come back to this. Don't worry.
So then, you know, they're all there. They're all having a barricade. They're all getting on their ships, and it's really cool. I like this part of the movie.
I love this. Yeah.
And it's, you know, this second climax. There's two climaxes in this film, but this second climax is like setting up Kylo as the next villain, and he's just like obsessed. He wants to destroy. He's throwing Hux around everywhere.
Destroy them all! Destroy them all!
Goodbye, Billy and Mandy reference.
Gross.
But what do you call it? He's just throwing Hux around, and is just like, the Supreme Leader's dead. He's like, are you all right? He's like, I'm the Supreme Leader now. And it's you know, we get it. He's emo boy. He has power now.
He's the next big bad.
So then we get to the part where he's like, you know, trying to fight. They're all trying to fight. Finn, Rose, and Poe are in these ships, and they have like these little things and the salt
little
and
skis.
yeah, and
I like it.
And this is like a big moment for, you know, they have like a thing to crack their door. Like it's like basically a
battering ram cannon.
Yeah.
Right.
Basically.
Very
and
specific.
Finn is like going to like try and, you know, ram into it.
Well, he says, I'm done running. Because Poe says, retreat, let's fight for another day.
And that's so interesting how both their arcs put them in different places that are in conflict at the end. That's actually very interesting, because Poe gives off the line. Whoa, wait, we're not done yet. But he tries to crash, and Rose.
We're there because Poe said retreat. Finn's the only one who does not retreat.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But is that the point where he says we're the spark that's gonna burn the First Order down?
No, he says that back in the cave, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, I think that he says that later with a specific character comes, you know, and Deus Ex Machina.
Well, yeah, back in the cave, but you know, no, he does say, you know, let's retreat, save, or you know, fight for another day, and Finn is like, I'm done running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost crashes into the thing. Right, Buzz is about to fire. Rose stops him, and he's like, "Rose, what are you doing?" And Rose is like, "Finn, we don't win by destroying what we hate. We win by protecting what we love." And then kisses him. I don't like the kiss. I could have done with like friendship.
Could have done without the kiss.
Yeah.
Very forced.
And Finn's just kind of like, "I'm gay. I'm kidding." That's what it was given. It was.
Did he say gay, or did he say you're not Ray?
Ray. He just screams Ray's name after she.
Ray. It was nothing, Ray. It was nothing.
Oh,
it really was nothing.
How I wish he was just gay in these films. I would love that. But anyway,
you can't always get what you want.
We can't. But anyway, you know, he drags her, you know, body. We assume that she's like fatally wounded.
I don't know how he made it back to the trenches from where they were.
Then we see somebody come in, and suddenly Luke comes in and has this moment with Leia, gives her Han's dice, which he took earlier in the film.
Another thing, the Force connection.
Yes.
Yep.
Those dice aren't real though.
Yes, those dice. Whoa, we're not. That's a
I know. I'm just saying it.
I thought they were real.
They're not real. They're not real.
They disappeared?
Yes.
So basically,
so it was a joke. It was a joke.
Wait, he comes out. He comes out, and then he's looking at them. Kylo is like so infuriated. He's like, aim all those cannons at that man. Shoot him. And then they shoot him, and then Luke is just like, this is great. He's just like, come and get me, basically.
More.
And Kylo Ren comes down and has this fight, and Luke pulls out his blue lightsaber, which as Dr. Jace pointed out, got destroyed in the throne room.
Yeah.
Clues.
Interesting.
Clues.
So and when we saw Luke in this moment, everyone was probably questioning, how did Luke get there so fast?
How did Luke survive those blasters?
If he drowned his X-wing fighter on the planet, how did he survive the blasters? Is he just giga chatting with the Force right now?
I think everyone there watching this bit was like, oh my god, he's so OP. He's giga chatting everything.
I was questioning it too.
And then Kylo Ren this is one of the best lightsaber fights in the Star Wars canon. It's one of the best. It's one of the best.
The best?
Yes, if we can consider one of the best lightsaber fights to be Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in Rebels, this is a good lightsaber fight.
In Rebels?
What? Yeah, you know what? That's another thing. If we ever get to Rebels, in Rebels they have such a
2-second fight in Rebels?
Wait. Why do you have a problem with that? But you're agreeing, saying that this is the best fight in the lightsaber fight. You, Grandmaster, you.
Huh?
Were you paying attention to what Nino was saying?
Yes, he's saying this is up there with Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul.
He said this is the best fight in the Star Wars canon.
I know. I didn't say the best. I said
the best lightsaber. The best lightsaber fight.
No, I said one of the best.
You said one of the best?
You said it was up there with Obi-Wan.
You said it's up there. It's up there
with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul and Rebels?
Rebels, yes. That's a good lightsaber fight.
Okay, stop saying good. You said it was the best.
I didn't say it was the best. I said it was
one of the best. You said the best.
Okay, well, I meant to say one of the best. These are one of the best.
But you gave a reference point. You said it's up there.
I'm saying it's up there because that's one of the best lightsaber fights in Star Wars.
There are better lightsaber fights. That fight is 2 seconds long. In Rebels.
But fights aren't just about we hit each other, with lightsabers. Like if that was the criteria, then Anakin versus Obi-Wan would be the best lightsaber fight in the franchise, and it's not.
It is.
It's not. It's not.
on Mustafar?
On Mustafar, yes.
You're losing points. You're losing
John
points.
Williams score back in that lava flow. Oh,
so you're telling me that fight is better than Duel of the Fates?
Duel of the Fates from episode 1.
Wait, you're going all over the place.
No, we're drawing comparisons between the best Star Wars fights.
Just say what your number one is. Say what your number one is.
Duel of the Fates.
Okay.
For episode 1, right? Is that Duel of the Fates?
Yes, from episode 1.
Okay. Where does this fight, Luke and Kylo Ren, rack up to your number 1?
I put it on number 2.
No.
I can't
either.
How?
I won't.
Okay.
I just won't.
But then all you care about is action. You don't care about
That's not all I care about. It's not all I care about.
Obviously you do.
I feel like fights have some balance. Fights have a balance between action and theme.
Right. And the Rebels fight takes 2 seconds. It's not even a fight.
But the build, you know what? When we get to Rebels, we're gonna talk about. But this lightsaber fight is showing character work. It's showing a conflict between two characters that are handling it in very different ways. Luke never raises his lightsaber in attack. Something that he regrets doing in this film to Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's literally only defending. He's only dodging. He's only defending. And Kylo Ren is trying to go on the offensive.
He's also not there. So
we're getting there. But anyway, so they basically did. And he's like, oh, got you. I'm not really here. And you see Luke like meditating.
He's
and
shaking.
He's meditating.
Bullets.
And then he's like, see you around, kid. Wink. After like Kylo puts the lightsaber through him, and then he disappears. And then basically they found a way through the caves. Finn and Rey are reconnected, and then they all escape on the Millennium Falcon. And the end. That's the end of the movie.
You forgot the perfect line when he says, "I am not the last Jedi."
You're right. I am not the last Jedi. everything that you said about he had a flip of the dialogue what he said earlier in the movie to Rey. He's like, it's funny, everything you just said was wrong. Yeah. And then he dies. He passes away. He goes into the Force because the stress was too much for him of doing.
I mean,
that
that
whole
was
show.
pretty. That's a pretty big feat.
Yes, top 10 Force users in Star Wars. Luke is number 1 right now.
I mean, I haven't sat down and made a list of Force users.
Well, Luke's number 1. So anyway, so yeah, that's The Last Jedi. So
that's The Last Jedi.
I think I have a bunch of stuff here about like the reaction. It was very polarizing. I'm just gonna run through some of these links very quickly, and then we're gonna talk about our reaction to the reactions, because Rian Johnson, like, I think after a month after the movie was out, he was talking about subverting expectations with Snoke, with Luke, and Mark Hamill was like literally at a showing, and he was like, it wasn't my Luke Skywalker, it was Jake Skywalker.
Right.
And that was a very big thing. And I will give Rian Johnson this benefit. Every question that The Force Awakens posed, he gave an answer for in this movie. Every question. Like, who is Snoke? And Rian Johnson, this is the answer. Doesn't matter, he's dead.
Ren?
Yeah, with Knights of Ren, yeah.
Oh, but
okay,
not every question. How did Maz get the lightsaber?
No one cares about Maz Kanata.
so he didn't answer every question.
Okay.
Who was Snoke?
It doesn't matter. He's dead.
He
didn't answer every question.
But he was trying to say it doesn't matter. He's dead now. Kylo Ren is who you should be focused on.
Yeah, that's fine, but he didn't answer every question.
He did not answer every question.
Well, some questions.
He was too busy subverting my expectations.
Some questions don't deserve to be answered. That's a question that doesn't deserve to
be answered. Hold on. Don't contradict yourself. You said it. You said he answered every question.
Yeah.
He didn't.
He did. Anyway, so, and I think people were just soured because there was a release like near the beginning of this movie, like of this run, where Rian Johnson was like, hey, I'm going to create my own trilogy. And then the ending scene where like, oh, what do we do? The Hope was still he's the little kid, and he's like, oh yeah, the broom, I'm still enslaved, but I have hope, and they're talking about Luke Skywalker and how he stood up to the First Order. I like that part, but everyone was like, at the end of this movie, they're like, Rian Johnson's just setting up his own movie verse. He doesn't care about this movie. That's the feeling everyone came in. And then people were just defending the movie. People were bashing the movie, I think a little bit unfairly. They were like, this is not the Star Wars I remember. There's a famous Star Wars YouTuber, a Star Wars Theory. He really hates The Last Jedi. He's like, yeah.
Oh no, go ahead. What?
He really hates. He's like, I just don't agree that this is not my Star Wars. Basically, not my Star Wars. But then he goes around and cries when Luke comes out in the Mandalorian season 2 finale. Spoilers for anyone listening that hasn't seen Mandalorian.
What's wrong with that?
I just think that this movie brought a better Luke than Luke coming in and being a badass. That's all.
Okay.
He'll probably never hear this, but if he does hear this, no offense to you. I just have an opinion. I have an opinion on your opinion.
I used to watch his videos back. I think The Last Jedi actually got me introduced to his channel, Star Wars Theory. I'll definitely say my reaction coming out of the movie was a lot different compared to what it was with Force Awakens. I didn't hate the movie coming out. I knew something was different because I think I saw it with Grandmaster Hoop with like a group of people to see it. And when we came out of the movie, I don't know what it was, but it was the first time coming out of a Star Wars movie because I've only seen two Star Wars movies in theaters. In theaters. I got onto the Star Wars train late, and it was Revenge of the Sith and Force Awakens. Those were the two. When Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace came out, I was not on Star Wars yet. So
like little kids at that point.
Exactly. So Revenge of the Sith, I came out of it like, oh man, that was awesome. Force Awakens, we already talked about it in the Force Awakens pod. We came out of it saying, "Oh yeah, it was pretty good." It was just a New Hope, but it was fine. It was fine. But with this one, it was the first time I came out of a Star Wars movie, that being the third time, where I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. This is weird. I don't know. Am I the only one? And I remember the first thing Grandmaster Hoop said. He said, "What the hell is up with that casino scene?" He hated the casino scene from day one. I just a core memory I associate with the movie. But yeah, over time, I just started realizing some of the things I just didn't agree with Rian Johnson's direction, like with certain characters. And I don't know, like for a time, I considered it the worst Star Wars movie. I did. I thought it was, and mind you, this was before Rise of Skywalker came out. This was the newest Star Wars movie, so I was like, man, it can't get any worse than this. And, oh my God, JJ said, hold my blue milk. Hold my blue milk.
I think it's a lot to be said that I don't think Star Wars fans deserve anything. Just
they
plain
don't.
and simple. They really don't. They bullied Daisy Ridley. They were racist to John Boyega. They were racist and bullying to
Kelly.
the actor. Yes, Kelly Marie Tran.
They got her off social media.
And you know what? It's for people to be like, we weren't always like this. Yes, you were. Jake Lloyd. Anybody? Jake Lloyd?
Oh, Ahmad Best.
Who is Jake Lloyd again?
Jake Lloyd is Anakin and Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Ahmad
Best was Jar Jar, right?
The kid,
Ahmad Best is Jar Jar.
So
he has a whole documentary on his hate that he received.
Wow.
Yes, he almost unfortunately committed suicide because of the bullying he received.
He did commit suicide?
No, he almost.
Oh, okay.
He's thankfully still alive, and hopefully, still working and still, living a good life. But
my God, man.
Star Wars fans do not deserve anything. And I will go on the record saying this. I feel like this movie got unfairly judged by a lot of things because people wanted a power fantasy. I think people wanted to be like, yeah, Luke is finally gonna be a badass and he's gonna, save everything. He's gonna make 2 Star Destroyers collide into each other and then it blows up and then he cuts a piece with his lightsaber and that falls on him and he's like, that's just the Force. Wink to the camera. That's what people wanted from this movie. That's what they wanted. They wanted like epic, like power fantasy, and instead they got a very contemplative film about the nature of the Force, what happens when you don't take a side in war, and like the repercussions of being in a war. That's what they got, and people didn't like that. They also got like messy storytelling, but
I'm gonna say this. Yeah, as Dr. J said, I think when the credits started rolling, I think a lot of people were just kind of, what did we just watch kind of thing. There were some things that are good, some things that were and some things that were just like, oh no, this did not work. Rewatching this movie, I just think I might have this movie was kind of boring to me. I think this movie is just really stagnant at points. The whole the resistance fleeing from the First Order, that's like a good chunk of the movie. Rey and Luke's interactions really amounted to nothing. I don't think she learned anything. She learned how to feel. And she doesn't really learn anything.
She's an expert lightsaber wielder now.
Sure. And then Finn's story, again, as we talked about, wasn't even necessary if Holdo had just told the thing. I find this movie to be the most engaging in the very beginning, the opening sequence, the final climax, and everything else in between is just, I think, relatively boring. Just you know, we can talk for days about thematically. A lot of the themes do work, but that's
He
what
has
I was
good
getting at
ideas.
earlier.
I like the ideas Ryan Johnson presents in the movie. It's just
It's the execution.
it's the execution for me. I would have loved, because see, that's the thing. He's getting one movie that's the middle child between the introduction and the conclusion, and he has to make those connections and leave enough room for interpretation for the finale. I think I would have liked a Ryan Johnson trilogy where he has full control from beginning to end of what type of story he wants to tell. I think he could have done it. I know it's not canceled or anything, but it's like in limbo. It's
not moving forward.
A lot of Star Wars films are in limbo.
And
right.
It's because of really this movie.
And it sucks because I'm like, oh man, you guys really went with 3 different directors for each film. And I feel like each of these movies was more or less a knee-jerk reaction from Disney and how they thought, oh, well, the fans want this, so we need to do this. So like, for example, when they bought Disney, I'm sorry, Disney bought Star Wars, right? Their knee-jerk reaction was, prequel's bad. Let's make a sequel trilogy and reference a lot of the original trilogy. People are going to love that. They did it to a fault and ended up retelling A New Hope again through Force Awakens. They got criticized for it. So then they're like, okay, knee-jerk reaction. Let's make The Last Jedi so different that it can't be compared to any other Star Wars film that we've previously done. Then you get the result of it being polarized. Some people love it, some people hate it. Knee-jerk reaction, like, oh man, not everyone's on board. Disney's like, bring JJ back. Bring him back. We got to fix it. Everyone loved the first one. Let's wrap it up nice and clean for the third one.
Damage control. And they were originally going to go with a different director.
Yeah, it was Colin
Trevorrow.
Trevorrow, right?
Yeah.
And the stuff that he had planned for the final movie, I was like, where is this?
I saw the concept art. It looked nice. It looked really cool.
And see, that's part of the problem is that they originally, it was these 3 directors always. That was the original plan.
Right.
But it was like none of them are in the writing room together. And that's not okay. George Lucas did not direct Empire Strikes Back nor Return of the Jedi, but he's in the writing room for all 3.
Like making sure everything's okay. Yeah.
Right. And that was a major flaw in the design. Like consistent writing is not here, and it's gonna show when we talk about Rise of Skywalker. We can literally pinpoint things that are almost a direct jab at Ryan Johnson. You know, we even talk about it here. You know, like Snoke's like, take that damn helmet off.
Yes.
You know,
the obsession with Darth Vader, like, gone.
But at the same time, Ryan Johnson was also trying to get Kylo Ren or the actor out of the helmet.
Sure. Yeah. No, I get that.
Because when you have a helmet on somebody, it's a lot of acting that's not facial, and that's hard on film.
Let me tell you, the big difference here is Darth Vader is voiced by James Earl Jones.
You're right.
Give me someone who can match, because that's not Adam Driver's voice.
James Earl Jones is a Centennial voice.
Exactly. So
wait, that's not Adam Driver's voice?
That is Adam Driver's
voice. It is, but it's like distorted.
It's what do you call it? Ben Affleck's Batman voice when he's Batman.
The voice thing.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Either way, it's no James Earl Jones. So it's like, why are we trying to do this? You know. Why are we doing this?
Yep.
It's not needed. That's the only one that first came to mind. Or just the whole Bray, stop worrying about your parents. Snoke is irrelevant. All that stuff that JJ tried to set up, and then he was like, subvert.
I think it was to a fault.
It might have been to a fault because he's done other subversions of expectations in his other movies, like after, like Glass Onion and Knives Out have both been very big subversions on
Looper
mystery.
Too. Goodness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Looper. Yeah.
Well, Looper. I'm talking about after.
Post Last Jedi.
So it seems that he's definitely like used this as a growing opportunity. And when he has like a good amount of creative control and not limited to like Star Wars, I think he does a good job. I hope we see something soon from him and Star Wars together. I hope DB Weiss and David Benioff stay away from Star Wars.
Oh God, please don't bring
Um,
them back.
I can't.
Don't.
If we're everything that we complain about this series, that series would be terrible.
Right. Their involvement with Star Wars would, God, please.
I just want Filoni and crew, and that might be bad for me to say, but in Filoni and Favreau, I trust.
It must grow. It must grow.
Granted, the folks at Andor are doing good things. Still haven't watched it, but I get it. No, we do have to grow. So I do give this film points for trying to break the narrative cliches of Star Wars. I applaud their efforts. Did it all work? No. But I see what they were doing, and as we talked, I think Poe had a good character arc here. I think he probably had the strongest character arc here. Shoot, we said let's split this into 3 storylines. I think Kylo Ren had a good arc here, honestly, as well.
Please join me.
Well,
Join
yeah,
me,
he
Ray.
just kind of, you are a stupid boy who barely could kill Han Solo. And then,
split you down the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Kylo Ren was actually a lot more interesting to watch this time around.
I think everyone is a lot more interesting just because they're actual characters in this movie. Like, good for better or for worse, everyone is treated like an actual character.
I don't like Rey. Still don't like Rey.
I liked Rey in this film. She
Yeah,
was not as strong as other parts of the film, but I think she was good.
Rey might be my least favorite character in the sequel trilogy.
Oh,
Rose,
yeah,
I like Rose 100 times better than Rey in this film. I even like Holdo and Leia having this little old lady moment, being like, I like him. I know. Like, it was like funny. It's like she's like in complete opposition to him, but she's like, I like his spirit. You know?
when he's unconscious, so he can't hear.
I like his spirit when
Right.
when he's knocked down.
Oh, okay. And let me say this right now. And you said it earlier. That Leia Force scene is dumb.
Oh yeah, not a fan. Not
a fan.
I can't.
One bit. And I rewatched it. You mean to tell me she doesn't get blown to bits? I guess it hit and she got sucked out. Fine. She got sucked out. Fine.
She should have been dead.
She should have been dead.
If not the shrapnel, the vacuum of space, like I can't.
Now,
Like,
you want to talk
I
about
don't-
you brought up
buy
also like the new things that the Force can do. This ain't it.
I liked it.
No.
What, with Leia?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
can't buy it. I cannot buy it.
Okay. Again, this is probably going back to your critique of there's like 30 years.
Oh, you cut
storytelling.
off a little bit.
Oh, this is probably going back to your critique of saying that there's like 30 years of storytelling that we're missing from this, from these characters.
I mean, I don't buy it if Luke does it either.
I think
All right.
I buy this scene if Leia just says something along the lines of it's a trick that I learned from my brother. Like afterwards, I don't know. Just give me something. I don't buy Leia just pulling it out of nowhere and then obviously not dying from it, but then also just doing it without.
And that's the other thing. I don't see a purpose to it if she was just gonna live from it. Why even kind of set it up like that? I love the scene.
It subverts your expectations.
I love the scene between Kylo and Leia clearly having a connection.
Oh, I like that one.
And then he doesn't do it. I love that bit. That could have been it. That could have been fine. Kill Akbar. She escapes. Nobody cared about Akbar to begin with. I love Akbar.
What do you mean no one cared about? Everyone loved Akbar. But Ryan Johnson did not care about Akbar. So
we haven't even talked about the Porgs.
Oh, the Porgs.
The Porgs were cute.
I like the Porgs.
They sold merchandise.
They were created for merchandise, but they're a nice new little cute alien, I guess.
Shout out to John Luke. He loves Porgs.
Does he? He likes
does.
Porgs.
He has one.
He has one in his
that
car.
that moment
he
where
takes everywhere.
Chewie's cooking a
Eating
porg,
his-
and and one's looking at him all funny, so he doesn't eat the cooked one. So it's like, damn, you're just gonna throw it away now? It's already
That was
dead.
awkward scene.
What
Very
about
awkward.
what about the porgs that are nesting in the Millennium Falcon? We don't hear
Right.
from them again.
We don't.
Good.
They're
Goodbye.
pivotal to the story. Wow.
Nor do we
Wow.
get to see the caretakers of Ankh. I don't even know the name of this planet.
Ankh 2.
Ankh 2.
The who?
The caretakers. The ones
The
that look
little
like
ladies.
Abbey nuns. They look like
the
Abbey
ones
nuns.
that were living on the island with Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they just kind of stay there. I guess they just clean up Luke's mess that he left behind. And that's it. Luke's dead. He's gone. His little dice thing was a joke that also disappeared as well. It was a projection. Not sure how he gave Leia a kiss on her forehead, if he's a projection.
Force.
It's
He
the
couldn't.
Force.
He used the Force to like physically manifest himself there, but once he broke the connection, it all went away.
I see.
Yep.
see.
That
That's
was
it.
his stand version, Dr. Jace. That's
That
a
was
better way
his
of putting it.
stand.
That was his Force stand.
Of course. Ryan Johnson's a JoJo fanatic. I forgot.
He could be. You never know.
He could.
But I
Um,
will say, this is not my least favorite Star Wars film. I'll say that much.
Yeah, definitely not. Like I'll admit, when I first saw the movie and like it was the most recent Star Wars piece of media, I despise this movie. I thought it was when it was the newest film, and again, I had only seen it once in theaters, and I'm like, you know what? Looking back, yeah, this sucked. I hate this movie. And I had a whole laundry list of things like, this character doing this makes no sense. Admiral Holdo makes no sense. Luke doing this makes no sense. I think now with, call it hindsight, now with the rise of Skywalker out and about, and now I see how bad the films can get. Then in retrospect, I'm looking back at Last Jedi like it's that meme from Avengers with Thanos. Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
and Disney is the Thor. What do you call it? Slicing off our heads for saying that.
Exactly.
What did you do?
Exactly. I still have a lot of problems with it. I don't despise it as much as I did before. It's still not one of my favorite Star Wars movies, but maybe that's because there is more yet to come that is more insulting than either of these movies did. I'm actually looking forward to that one. That one's gonna be fun.
Oh, I am not. I have not watched.
You're
that
not?
since
What?
theaters. I have not watched it a second time.
Same with this one. I haven't seen this one since the theaters.
This is
Last
probably
Jedi.
like my third or fourth time watching this one.
Actually,
I
you know
think.
what? I think all these movies, the entire sequel trilogy, the last time I saw them was in theaters, and I rewatched them again for the pod. So that's good. I don't know. I just want a
They fly now. They fly now.
Goodbye.
Oh my god! Oh god! Oh, I'm not ready.
No,
ready.
we're not ready.
Yeah. Let me stop. Let me not get ahead.
Alright. But
yeah.
that was the Last Jedi retrospective.
That was the Last Jedi retrospective. I think it was fun revisiting Ryan Johnson's take on Star Wars, and again, I think if you give him full control, beginning to end, he could probably do something pretty neat with the Star
absolutely,
Wars trilogy.
absolutely.
Yeah, full creative control. Don't give him constraints or anything. Just let him do what he wants. It doesn't even have to involve Jedi or anything that maybe he's not familiar with. Just
Give him his own sandbox.
let him do it exactly. Kind of like how they gave Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni with Mandalorian. They're like, hey, you got this period after Return of the Jedi and before the sequel trilogy. Do whatever the hell you want with it. Go ahead, have fun. Let Ryan do that. And it doesn't even have to be movies. It could be a show. Give him a show. Give him a show.
Shoot, I might be more inclined for a show.
Yeah. And I think now with the success of Mandalorian, I don't know if it was Kathleen Kennedy or someone else at Disney, they were saying that this seems to be the future of Star Wars for now, the foreseeable future. This expanded universe told through Disney Plus series, live action, and cartoons. So we may never see a movie for Ryan Johnson, but but maybe that might transition into a series. So, but yeah, those are our thoughts on The Last Jedi retrospective. Let us know what you all think. Are you guys that are listening this far in still have this disdain, if you even had it, for The Last Jedi, or did you come to warm up to it? Were you one of those stands from day one that was like, no, Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie? Or did you grow to love it? Let us know what you think down in the comments below, wherever you're listening to us on, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at the Yonko Table. I think that wraps up The Last Jedi here. I'm your Yonko host, Dr. DrJaceAttorney, fellow Yonko Grandmaster Hoop, and Supernova Nino for leading the charge on The Last Jedi retrospective. How do you want to close this? How do you want to close this one? Do you want to? Last time we used prequel quotes.
We gotta use our best quotes from this movie.
This movie. I already used. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. Whatever Benicio del Toro says. You're going today and you win tomorrow. That's what he says. Woohoo!
I'll just use mine. Bring it, Chrome Dome. Last one. Come on, wrap it up.
This is not going to go the way you think.